Okay, let's get started. Episode number 6. New mustache design. Of whom? All right, episode number 6. Just a few things at the start again. This is Learn Web3 with Colony. So we have a schedule which is on this website, which I'm going to post in the chat. It is also a repository where we keep all of the code. I haven't updated it yet, but I will very soon with the code that we already have so that you can follow along. Apart from that, we have past episodes that you can watch on YouTube. The link is here. Will lead you to this beautiful playlist where you can basically find all of the videos that we did until last week. Just a quick recap. What did we do? What did we do last week? Let's just refresh our memories, our collective memories. We wanted to implement the sign-in with Ethereum authentication system. I mean, we set up the whole Next shebang and all of the pages, all of the dependencies that we will need, or most of the dependencies that we need. And now we're looking at the sign-in with Ethereum using Next.js. We were following this guide on the WAGMI documentation, which is basically explaining how to do it with Next.js. And we almost did it, and then we ran into a tiny problem. I'm going to explain that later. Just to refresh your memory on what sign-in with Ethereum is, let's assume this was a nice drawing. It's a way to authenticate yourself towards a server, like let's say a traditional Web2 server, using your Ethereum web address. So how does this work? The server sends a message to the client, which contains a message to sign and a nonce, which we call the challenge. The client then takes their Ethereum wallet, let's say MetaMask or whatnot, signs this message with the nonce included, and sends over the message back and the signature to the server. The server can then say, okay, I can verify that a wallet with a certain address signed the message that I gave them. So that means the server can verify that the client is actually owning the private key to this wallet. That means we are uniquely identified. That's cool. And the server says, yes, okay, that's all right. And says, and basically sets a session for the client, may it be in a cookie or a JSON Web Token, doesn't really matter. And then the client says, yay, I'm logged in, and then uses this JWT token for all of the future requests, or the cookie in that sense, in that regard. So how does this look in Next.js? We basically have a little website. Let me just quickly show you what we are rendering right now. So we have a website that just says connected to this address, and connected in this case means MetaMask is connected. So we have access to the MetaMask wallet, and we can sign stuff, and then we can request the accounts and things like that. and we can log in and we can disconnect. So the login button, what does it do? It's basically implemented here. The login button does the following. It says, okay, it basically calls this function login with the message that we are assembling here, and this is the sign in with Ethereum implementation on the client. We're using a package for this called sign in with Ethereum, SIWE. It's basically this, and it provides us with all of the mechanics that we need on the client and on the server. The challenge with Next.js is always to kind of figure out what's exactly running on the client and what's on the server and what is running on both. So in this case, we're assembling the message on the client because this is the only place where we can actually sign it, as it has access to MetaMask. So here we say sign message async, and that method comes from WAGME, which we implemented. WAGME is just a wrapper for Ethers that makes it easier to access all of the functionality that Ethers provides for us to communicate with Web3 nodes within React. So here we basically sign the message. Then we send this message and the signature to an API route called verify. We can look into that later on. And then we log the response. This is all we do for now. So last time we implemented it like this. And this function get server-side props is basically for server-side rendering. And it here fetches the nonce so that we can sign in with this particular nonce. As I said earlier, we need a randomly generated nonce to send to the client to prevent replay attacks from happening. So we have that. And I think I know where the issue lies, but we have to kind of figure that out first. So what I'm doing here is I'm getting the nonce from our server. We have an API route for that as well. And then we just return it, and then we use it in this component. So, and I think I know what the issue is here. The issue is that we get the that we are getting the nonce on the server side. Like, we are getting the nonce on the server from our own server, which doesn't really make sense. We are kind of connecting to our own server, and this is kind of one of these cases where I basically said, okay, we don't really know what's on the server and what's on the client here, and it doesn't really make sense. So this is definitely not correct. We shouldn't be doing this. So, but can we maybe do it, like, can we get the nonce here somehow? Instead of just calling this, we just do whatever this API method does, like just directly in here. No, we cannot. Because, and this is what I'm getting to now, because we have this nonce handler here. And this is basically what happens when we call the /API/nonce function. You can see here, whenever we do get, which we want to do, just generate a nonce and get it to then send it back to the server and say, okay, I can prove that this is just the only time you asked me to do this challenge. The problem here is that we are storing the nonce in the session. And that means the session is the session of the client. But what we're doing right now is we're storing it in the session of the server asking itself. So that's not a good idea. So what we instead should be doing, we should call it from the client, get nonce, and then it will set a cookie on the client, which contains this data that we need. Hope that was clear. So maybe I can just implement it, and then you will see what I mean by that. We have to do it on the client. So kind of right now we're doing it on the server in this get server side props. And I mean, calling the server from itself doesn't make sense in the first place. I just wanted to tell you also why it's also not working. I mean, it's not only making not sense, but it's also not working. Let me quickly turn this off here. So instead, what we need to do is in the login method, get the response. So let's say nonce response equals wait fetch. And then we do API/nonce. And that is already a get. And then we can just do what we did before. That's totally fine. And we say nonce response text. So, and this we can just completely remove. Because this function get server side props is only ran on the server, and we don't want that. We don't want to call the server to call itself from itself. So now let's actually just log the nonce. And then return for now, so that we can connect. And let's see if I press login. Oh, look, this looks very, very satisfying. This is a nonce, and this is what we need. So we log in it, that's good. But now let's actually use it. So let's sign the message with the nonce, which is here, and then we post the message to verify, and then we log that response. So that's going to be interesting. Let's reload, connect, and yeah, let's see what happens. Log in, MetaMask should open. I'm sorry you cannot see this. Let me try to move that up. Okay, so, and this is quite nice. This is what sign in with Ethereum does for you. It kind of formats this message really nicely. It says localhost 3000 wants to sign in with your Ethereum account. Then the account, sign in with Ethereum, then the URI version, chain ID, then the nonce that we just generated, and then when it was issued. So that's really nice. So we can just sign this and see what happens. Oh, and now we actually get a response with 200, which is really nice. And let's just see whatever we got here. Okay, I mean, that's not much. We just got okay, true. But now we should actually have a cookie. Oh, and look at that. It's a cookie named SIWE. And it's encrypted, which is nice. It's encrypted with a server password, so only the server can decrypt it. So that's quite nice. The only non-encrypted information, as far as I see here, is the February 26th. No, what is this? No, that's not a thing at all. It's just it's March. Everyone, calm down. It's March. So this is just random stuff. I thought there would be a date in here, but it's not. It's fine. Cool. So far, so good. We have a response. We have a cookie. Everything seems to be in order. Now, let's do something. Because what I also implemented last time is an API method called me. And you can see the only thing it does is it gets the user's address from the session. So we have the request session, and this is the session that Iron supports. Iron session is another npm package that we're using for the session handling, which is in charge of creating this cookie and everything. And that has now an SIWE object in which hopefully the address could be. So let's see if we actually authenticate it with our cookie here. Let's just say localhost 3000 API me. And we can see that we actually are authenticated with our address. So this is really good. This is progress. It works now. So whatever, I mean, I told you what I did wrong last time. So, but now it actually works. So we have a session cookie, and we can access it. We can access the user on all kinds of places. So, excuse me. What I would be interested in is seeing what this SIWE object contains as well. I mean, this is how we learn, right? Let's just log this and see what happens. Oh, let's see. Okay, so we have the domain, we have the address, we have the statement sign. This is the sign in with Ethereum, URI, nonce. This is basically information that we just signed. So that's cool. Let's keep it in. So for now, this is good. Let's just check that in. This is actually, to be honest with you, this is the initial commit. I'm not checking in so much when I'm live coding, but I should. So that's why we're doing this now. And it's up. All right. So what next? So actually, the next step for me would be authorization. So what's the difference here? I feel like authentication and authorization are used kind of in the same vein or like interchangeably, but they're not the same. Authentication means someone has authenticated themselves. That means like I have given you my identity. In this case, I haven't given you, or in some cases, I've given you my username and password. I have been identified as this person. Or I have signed an Ethereum address. I've signed an Ethereum ID with my address, and that means I have authenticated myself towards you. What is authorization? Authorization is basically telling the server what kind of permissions do I have, what kind of user am I really? Am I an admin? Am I just a general user? Am I a logged in user? Like, this is what authorization means, right? Am I authorized to see something? So this is where you kind of make these differentiations between certain routes in your website. Like, can someone see this? Can someone see something else? So, and this is kind of important here. And what I personally want to do is to differentiate this by roles within a colony. So that means when I have a certain role in the colony, I get certain roles also on the server, so that the server can check these roles and can appropriately show me different kinds of websites. different routes, or that basically that I'm authorized to see different routes. So what I want to do now is whenever the user logs in, I want to attach something to the session. Where do we do that? In session, in login. Oh yeah, look at that. This is not correct anymore. Let's remove that. Or actually not in this, but it is in the API verify method. So the verify here you can actually see as an API handler for login, so to say. And here we basically, as you can see that this is where we set the SIWE field on the session, the field that we basically see on this side right now. This is where it's being set. I haven't really shown you this before. I mean, I showed you this last time, but not today. And here, I feel like I want to get the user roles from colony, for this particular colony, and store them in store them in the session itself. So, and this is where it gets slightly complicated. Let me maybe open up some drawing tools here. So the way this works is that currently we are, maybe I showed the code first. So currently we are wrapping the whole page, which is this one, like an app, and basically app is the main entry point of our page. We are wrapping all of the components in a WebMe config with a client, and that in itself wraps ethers, and that itself wraps MetaMask. So that means MetaMask can be accessed by WebMe, and this makes it available to React and the client. But what we would like to do is essentially also have ethers available on the server. We want to have like Colony SDK available on the server. On the client, we will deal with that later. Maybe we don't even need it at all. I guess we will see. But where we actually need is on the server, so to ask for client roles. So how does this work? We have the server. Kind of not making this up as we go. Server, and we have, let's say, or let's just draw a blockchain, right? So this is kind of this is kind of the CLNY network. And whenever we authenticate, we want to ask, hey, what are the roles for my user? Then the server will get these roles from the Colony network, and then we'll put them into the cookie on the client, into the session cookie. Oh, this was bad. Like this, maybe. Beautiful, right? And then the client can authenticate with these roles. What does it mean? It means as long as the cookie is, because as long as the cookie is not invalidated, or the cookie cache is not invalidated of the browser, we will always have this role as far as the client is concerned. But because every time some request that requires this role comes in, we're definitely checking again the server, like the calling network again. It will then fail. So that means if we cannot create a mission, for example, it will fail because we don't have the role. And then I think at this point we can also invalidate the cookie again or something like that. So every time we see that the cookie is not valid anymore, we can just invalidate it. But at the same time, and this is where we need also the CLNY SDK. But also on the client, we need the CLNY SDK to provide like WAGMI stuff. Probably. I guess we'll see about that. Let's make a question mark here. So we'll see about that. So for now, we need to have another ethers provider on the server, which is then wrapped by Colony SDK. So let's do that. This is what we're doing now. And I am going to make this I guess I don't know anything about how to structure this, so I'm just gonna make my own rules here. Let's make a directory called let's call it Web3. Or let's call it colony. It's a bad name. Everything in the end, everything is called colony, but it's, we'll see. And here we just say, okay, let's just call it index for now. And then we do whatever we do. Here we can actually just take a look. We can just go to Colony SDK, get started, and do exactly what we need to do here. Just do import providers. This is not correctly formatted. Import Colony network. From Colony SDK. Const provider equals new providers, Web3 provider. Oh, actually, no, we're on the server now. So it is JSON RPC provider. And then boom, we also want to have Colony RPC endpoint, because this is where we connect to Gnosis. So this is the Colony Gnosis RPC endpoint. You can see it here. It is just x.colony.rpc, and this is where we want to connect to. We also need, what else do we need? Oh, JSON RPC, sorry, provider. We don't need a signer on the server. We only need a provider on the server because we will just get stuff from the server. We will never make a transaction from the server in this case. All the transactions are done on the client. And then we can say, how do we want to do this? Because this is async, we have to do probably a little dance here with a function that always gives us the client. So let's export host get client equals, and then let's put the client here, let client, because it's a global now. And then we can say if, actually, and this is a colony network. And if client, so if it already exists, we just return client. Otherwise, sorry, this is also async. Otherwise, we return await colony network dot init provider. So now we have always the get client function if we need it at some point. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Let's try to use it, I guess. And that would be in verify already. So we can say import get client from colony. So remember, what we want to do is get the colony roles. So how do we do that? Luckily, there is an API for that, and also a doc. Bop, bop, bop. First, we have to get a certain colony. I guess I probably should have set this up before. But I think to make things simple, I will just use a hard-coded colony for now. Later on, we will just use a parameter, a URL parameter. So for now, we use this colony dev demo as a hard-coded colony address. Later we deal with that to make that dynamic. Okay, so what do we want to do? We want to verify. This is handler. Let's make a function. Const, and that is get user roles, and that takes a user address. Or let's say it takes a colony, which is a string, and it takes a user or like an user address. Let's say user address, which is also a string. Equals async. Cool. So how do we get the user roles now? We have the client. You can say const client equals get client. We can make the get client function a little bit better as well, so that maybe we want for it to be like a little bit more dynamic. Right now we just set a global and then we just forget about it. But we know this is going to be a colony network. So how do we get to the colony? Some things I do know. Colony equals client get colony, and then we need the address, which is the colony address that we hard-coded before. We need to await this. So the colony is a colony, and then we can say const roles equals await colony why are you a string? What? Well, I don't know. Let's just look it up in the docs. On this page, what do we have? Pop, pop, pop. Do we even have that? I never used it before. We have set roles. We have unset roles. Yeah, we don't have get roles. Look at that, I forgot about this, apparently. Let's see if we have that. Get roles. Nah. Cool. Well, I guess I forgot about it. But we do have... I wonder, why does it say it's... It's a string. Doesn't make any sense. Oh, because this is a string. Ah, I'm sorry about that. Let's say colony def address. Colony def address, because it's a constant anyway. So now this is not a string. We call this colony address now. Oh, sorry, and this colony address. Okay, fine. Now a colony is a colony. Perfect. So what do we have? We have get team, get balance, get repetition. We have get internal colony client. So for now, we use this. I have to add this to colony SDK. I will make a note. Colony client. And what we're dealing with here is then colony.js. And colony.js has this functionality. Get user roles. And maybe I didn't do that yet because I don't know. Colony client. Roles. Colony client. Get user roles. Obviously we need the user. And that would be the user address. And then we need the domain, and then we just take the root domain, and that would be ID root domain. So ID is something that you can just import from Colony SDK. It has a bunch of helper IDs that you might want to use. So for example, the root domain is always the root domain. Cool. So now we have the roles, and this roles, it's a very awkward string. Let's await this also. And we have to make this better. I will actually write this down right now. Because I forgot about it. Get roles in Colony SDK. So we do need that. This is a very awkward string. It will just be, it's a byte string. And for each write for each bit there will be a role associated with it. So it's kind of complicated. So I will make that better. But let's just print it and then you will see what I mean. Return roles. So, and when we verify, when we log in, we validate, and then we say, okay, roles equals await get user roles. And then we say fields address, because this is the user address, and the colony address is the colony, first the colony def address and then fields address, which is the wallet address. And then we log the roles and see what happens. So just to remind you again what we're doing here, we are trying to get the roles of a person in a specific colony and then use that as kind of the status or like the permissioning system for our app as well. What we could also do is get the reputation for a user in this case and then use that as some sort of threshold for a specific user. Okay, I mean, let's see if we actually got it working. So that means, is Colony SDK really running on the server? So, okay, the API me route is still working. So what we want to do is go to login. Oh, and this console log is actually going to happen on the server side. I don't really know if it will show up here, to be honest. I don't know Next too well. Anyways, let's remove this and login. I just removed the cookie so that we can see if the login works. I mean, it didn't throw an error. Oh, okay. Okay. We did get the log. That's nice. Okay. Please ignore everything here. This is just overloads in the contract. I don't know why Ether still does that. But now you can see here, it is a 6F in hexadecimal. Okay, wow. What does that even mean? 6F. What is this? What is this? Because this is what I'm saying. It's a bit complicated to get these roles like this from the Colony.js client. I will make a much better function for this in Colony SDK, which is a bit more explanatory, and this will give you just a list of roles, basically an array. And here we have 6F. Okay, so what does this mean, 6F? Let's take a look at what roles I actually have in this colony. So contributors. So that's me. And I seem to have all of the roles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 roles here. Okay, then, as I said, the roles are stored as a binary string or as a binary number. And every bit of this number stands for a role, the position of the bit, basically. I'll just show you. So this is what we saw, 0x6f. And this is 111. I feel like there should be more, but I might be mistaken. So in my world, 111 means, well, we have to look it up. Colony network. I think it is in colony authority, maybe. No, I think it's probably colony data types. There must be an enum somewhere that we can use. Task role. I think the enum is called colony role. Colony authority is what I looked at. Here, the colony data types, colony role administrator. This is exactly what I was looking at before. Did we miss it? Colony role. Oh, here we go. Okay, enum colony role. So 0 is recovery, 1 is root, 1 is arbitration. 0 is recovery, 1 is root, 2 is arbitration, 3 is architecture. Then there's some deprecated thing, which number 4. Then we have funding and administration. And then this is the number of roles. It's just the end, basically, the end. So I feel like this should be more, because I have more roles. I will have to look into this. Is it really 6F? Yeah. Yeah, I do have all of these permissions in the routine. Well, I don't know at this point. We also don't really care too much, because for now I can just use the root role. I can just say if the second bit from the right, which this one here is a 1, we have the root role. Actually, I think because we are changing that in colony SDK anyways, for now I will just say if this is 111, this person is an admin. Done. It's totally fine for now, and it's not even bad. We just have to have these 3 roles to do this. So that means roles in this case is, what is roles in this case? I think it's a string, yeah. So what we can do is, why is it a string? It's kind of weird, right? We can say roles bn is big number. We learned about big number in the ethers course. Big number from roles. And then we can say is user admin. And then we can return roles bn equals 0x6f. Let's see if this is true. I just click login again, sign the message again. Oh, I think because we already had the cookie, it's deleted. And log in again, sign again. Oh. Wow, it didn't even complain. This method is not there at all. Is user admin. Admin console log admin. So let's do that. This is what we want to do. And connect and login. And sign. And then we look here. And we get true back. Cool. Now let's try to use it. Let's try to do it. Let's try to do the other thing. We have an API logout method actually. So now the cookie is gone. So that's pretty fine. That works as well. I didn't even test this before. And now we can log in again, and let's just use a different MetaMask account. MetaMask doesn't want to open for me. Oh, wow, that took a long time. Let's change accounts. I guess we have to create one. Account 2, connect. Oh, disconnect. What? There's some stuff going on here that I think okay, something is yeah. Now we're using the other account. Cool. I just had to change it in MetaMask. And now we log in with the other account that doesn't have admin privileges. And then we look here, and it has false. Beautiful. And now we can say, okay, we want to save this user stuff in the session as well. Request session user, and then we say is admin, and then we say admin. Or just like, let's say, just rename this one is admin. So TypeScript is complaining here. I think we can probably type this properly, but for now we just ignore this. It's fine. Cool. And now, my dear people, we can access this from anywhere. Isn't that great? I'll show you. We disconnect here. We wait for MetaMask to open. We go to account 1 and say, okay, it seems this account is connected now. Let's see if we do connect. Yeah, okay, our account is connected. And now we log in. We get a signature request, we sign. We get this stuff again. This time we don't console anything. But now let's go into the me root. And now we can say, we send more information than just the address. We can now send more information that we just got put in the session for the user. So we can say is admin request session user is admin. See what happens. API me. Okay, cool. So we have address this, and then we have is admin true. So now we know what kind of pages we can render for this user. We can say, okay, this person is an admin, and we have access to that in throughout the whole app, in all of the API routes and in all of the server-side rendered routes. Let's make a test for this. I didn't do this before, so this is going to be a first for me. I mean, most of this is a first for me, so it doesn't really make sense to say that. So I'm sorry, I can already feel my voice is leaving me, so this is gonna be very long. We are at about an hour now, so maybe half an hour more, and then I have to call it a day, because otherwise I won't be able to stream this week anymore, I guess. I think we got pretty far. We have authentication and we have authorization almost in as well, so this is really cool. Now what we can do is I open the documentation of, there's documentation of Iron Session somewhere, probably open, yeah, there we go. Iron Session is the handler that allows to do this. We can just set stuff on the session and then we can request it again. And that's pretty cool. And now we can just look at the API examples here. There we go, get server-side props. And there we see in get server-side props, we have this with Iron Session SSR, and that probably injects the request object into the arguments here, which is really nice. So that means if we have that, we can just use it and see whether someone is logged in or not. So let's do this server-side rendering for the homepage. I mean, why not? So this is the homepage. We import with Iron Session SSR from Iron Session /next. Let's see if this is a thing. Yeah, seems to be very much a thing. And let me say, okay, export const get server side props. This is just a convention of Next, that this method is going to be called like this, and then we can actually access the it will call this before rendering this page on the server, and then render in whatever we put in here. And this is async, and I'm just going to make it like this with Iron Session SSR. Is there a problem? 2 arguments. What is the second argument? Oh, this is the, yes. Within the session handlers, we always have to give it the configuration for the session. Const iron config. Oh, actually, we imported. Sorry. Import iron options, it's called. Yeah, from config. So there we go. And this is the second option here, iron options. That's what's making Iron so cool. It's stateless. That means we have to pass in the Iron options every single time, but it doesn't store anything. It doesn't need to hold any state for it to work. A lot of session handlers do this, for example, in the database, but this is solely cookie based. So all of the session data is stored on the client, and if they remove their session data, it's gone, and we don't have to worry about it on the server, which is neat. I find it just works pretty well. So, and in here, apparently we have this is the server-side props function. And apparently we can just do request in here. Oh, look at that. That's pretty cool. So here we have request, and we can say const user equals request session.user. I know it doesn't exist on there. I mean, it doesn't know. It doesn't know. And then we can say, what do we say? Ah, yeah. Return props user, just return the user. And then we can actually say, oh, wow, we have interface props, and we have the user here, and the user is all quite dirty. Please bear with me here. The user is admin. Yeah, which is a Boolean. And then we can also say address, I guess. Actually, let's put it here. Address string. Otherwise, it looks pretty weird. Okay, so then that means we have to do it like this. We have to say user is address request session use, or actually user.address, and sorry, nope. Let's just do it like this. Request session SIWE address, and is admin request session user is admin. Again, we can type this at some point if we wanted to. So, and now we have in the home, we have injected props of an injected prop of user, and that is props. Well, that is nice. And then we can maybe say here, user address question mark. And then we put in P and say user is user with address user.address is logged in. Otherwise we say not logged in. Okay, it's a bit confusing because we always have to differentiate between the wallet, is the wallet connected or is the user logged in? And that is, there's two different things, and it's important to know there's two different things. Currently, we don't have an auto connect for the wallet because it gives us a lot of troubles on the server side, and we have to go through a lot of hoops to do that. So currently, we just activate it just like that. And we have a login page, right? Don't we? Yeah, we have this login page. So look at this. We have user with address is logged in. That means we have the actual user data from the cookie rendered on the server side. Let me prove it to you. Reload. Bloop. localhost. So this is the website. This is the preview. This is the response. This is what actually comes from the server. You cannot see it, but I'm telling you, it's in here. It's in here. User with address is logged in. And that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. We have access to a user's address on the server side now, and we have access to their status as an admin. For example, we can also say, we can just nest it again and say, user is admin. Red mark. Don't do this ever. This looks terrible. Oh, I just lost my light. Probably not looking at my face anyways. There we go. User admin span. They are an admin. Span. Otherwise, span. They are no admin. And that means we can now differentiate on our server, in our rendering, what kind of roles this person has, and then we can just basically direct them to the right page, or just render something entirely different. And that is really cool. So we're done. We have authentication and we have authorization baked in. My voice is leaving me. I think we should wrap it up for today. On Thursday, we get into putting up all the routes. I hope my voice is going to be better so we can have a longer session. We're getting into hooking up all the routes, like maybe rendering some initial forms, some initial pages to see whether the user wants to access a certain page, meaning maybe they want to enter a new mission, for example, and only the admin can do that. So we're going to secure these routes, and we are rendering different pages depending on whether people are admins or not. So this is going to be really cool. For now, I'll leave it at that. Just hoping that the voice is going to be better soon. And yeah, pretty happy with the outcome today. Authentication, authorization done. Thanks everyone for joining this. This was great. It's going to be online probably tomorrow on YouTube as well. Let me know if you have any questions. Just send me whatever email or write it in the comments. I try to read all of this if ever anything is posted. I hope this was informative. And I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.